You've mentioned that you were always curious about the physical world, and that an early question you remember stood out where you asked your dad, "Why does ice float on water?" And he couldn't answer. And this was very surprising to you. So you went on to learn why. Maybe you can speak to what are some early questions in math and physics that really sparked your curiosity?
Yeah, that memory is kind of something I use to illustrate something I think that's common in science, is that people that do science somehow have maintained something that kids always have. A small kid, 8 years old or so, asks you so many questions, typically, that you consider them pests. You tell them to stop asking so many questions. And somehow our system manages to kill that in most people. So in school, we make people do study and do their things, but not to pester them by asking too many questions. And I think not just myself, but I think it's typical of scientists like myself that have somehow escaped that. Maybe we're still children, or maybe we somehow didn't get it beaten out of us. But I think I teach in college level, and it's, to me, one of the biggest deficits is the lack of curiosity, if you want, that we've beaten out of them, because I think it's an innate human quality.
Is there some advice or insights you can give to how to keep that flame of
I think
curiosity
it's a
going?
problem of both parents and the parents should realize that's a great quality we have, that you're curious, and that's good. Instead, we have expressions like "curiosity killed the cat," and more. But I mean, basically, it's not thought to be a good thing. Curiosity killed the cat means if you're too curious, you get in trouble, and
I don't
it
like
can
cats
lead to
anyway, so
trouble.
maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. That, to me, needs to be solved really in education and in homes. That's a realization that there's certain human qualities that we should try to build on and not destroy. One of them is curiosity. Anyway, back to me and curiosity. I was a pest and asked a lot of questions. My father generally could answer them, and at that age. And the first one I remember that he couldn't answer was not a very original question, but basically that ice is made out of water. And so why does it float on water? And he couldn't answer it. And it may not have been the first question. It's the first one that I remember. And that was the first time that I realized that to learn and answer your own curiosity or questions, there's various mechanisms. In this case, it was going to the library or asking people who know more and so forth. But eventually you do it by what we call research. But it's driven by, if you're, hopefully you ask good questions. If you ask good questions and you have the mechanisms to solve them, then you do what I do in life, basically. Not necessarily physics, but, and it's a great quality in humans, and we should nurture it.
Do you remember any other kind of, in high school, maybe early college, more basic physics ideas that sparked your curiosity, or mathematics or science in
I
general?
wasn't really into science until I got to college, to
Yes.
be honest with you. But just staying with water for a minute, I remember that I was curious what happens to water. You know, it rains and there's water, a wet pavement, and then the pavement dries out. What happened to this water that came down? And I didn't know that much. And then eventually I learned in chemistry or something, water's made out of hydrogen and oxygen. Those are both gases. So how the heck does it make this substance? It's liquid.
Yeah, but so that has to do with states of matter. You've I know perhaps LIGO and the thing for which you've gotten the Nobel Prize, and the things much of your life work perhaps was a happy accident in some sense in the early days. But is there a moment where you looked up to the stars, and also the same way you wondered about water, wondered about some of the things that are out there in the universe?
Oh, yeah, I think everybody's looks and is in awe and is curious about what it is out there. And and as I learned more, I learned, of course, that we don't know very much about what's there. And the more we learn, the more we know we don't know. I mean, we don't know what the majority of anything is out there. It's all what we call dark matter or dark energy. And that's one of the big questions. 20 years when I was a student, those weren't questions. So we even know less, in a sense, the more we look. So of course, I think that's one of the areas that almost it's universal. People see the sky, they see the stars, and they're beautiful, and see it looks different on different nights, and it's a curiosity that we all have.
What are some questions about the universe that in the same way that you felt about the ice, that today, you mentioned to me offline you're teaching a course on the frontiers of science, frontiers of physics.
Yeah.
What are some questions outside the ones we'll probably talk about that kind of, fill you with, get your flame of curiosity up and firing up, fill you with awe?
Well, first, I'm a physicist, not an astronomer, so I'm interested in the physical phenomenon, really. So the question of dark matter and dark energy, which we probably won't talk about, are recent. They're in the last 20, 30 years, or certainly dark energy. Dark energy is a complete puzzle. It goes against what you will ask me about, which is general relativity and Einstein's general relativity. It basically takes something that he thought was what he called a constant, which isn't, if that's even the right theory, and it represents most of the universe. And then we have something called dark matter, and there's good reason to believe it might be an exotic form of particles, and that is something I've always worked on particle accelerators and so forth. And it's a big puzzle what it is. It's a bit of a cottage industry in that there's lots and lots of searches. But it may be a little bit like, looking for a treasure under rocks or something. It's hard to, we don't have really good guidance, except that we have very, very good information that it's pervasive and it's there. Mm-hmm. And that it's probably particles, small. That the evidence is all of those things. But then the most logical solution doesn't seem to work, something called supersymmetry.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the answer could be something very complicated?
I like to think that most things that appear complicated are actually simple if you really understand them. I think we just don't know at the present time, and it isn't something that affects us. It affects how the stars go around each other and so forth, because we detect that there's missing gravity, but it doesn't affect everyday life at all. I tend to think and expect maybe, and that the answers will be simple, and we just haven't found it yet.